Hello everyone, this is Ange. As you can see, this video today is going to be a little different. I'm actually going to be recording myself as opposed to like my typical video where I have visuals, and the reason I want to do that is because this video is going to be about visual novel 18 plus H scenes and how it impacts the visual novel community. Might as well try the whole typical YouTuber recording on the fly thing just to see how it works out. So I just want to get one bias out of the way. I am pro H scene. I like 18 plus scenes in visual novels. I know there's people who only like them if they like story, or they like if there's some thematic purpose or whatever. There's actually a decent amount of interesting topics I was thinking about, so kind of want to just get right into. First thing I want to talk about just the general nature of how H scenes are written. I mostly read Japanese-made visual novels, and there's a kind of reputation they have for they're pretty much all the same. They're really repetitive. The girls really like to narrate everything that's happening to them. There's a lot of the typical Japanese words like kimochis. I can completely understand why people would dislike it, because they're just the typical vanilla sex kind, like the guy and the girl or whoever gets it on. Pretty much the only thing that's really different are the characters and the setting and how they get into it, but many times the scenes play out outside physicians and stuff is kind of the same, really formulaic, and I personally don't mind it because clearly the way they're writing it works, because they just keep writing it like that, and clearly people still keep buying Eroge and visual novels and stuff, so you can't really fault the developers for continuing to write like that. It's clearly meant for the typical hentai fantasy stuff. It's just in a different format, so bottom line, I don't really mind it. The next topic I want to talk about is how all the characters are totally 18 plus according to those little warning messages when you open up the games. I do think it's kind of unfortunate that pretty much every 18 plus visual novel is a high schooler or takes place in some high school setting, and it is kind of limiting to kind of see the same build up and the same kind of romance, while there's only so much you can do with high school age characters. And I mean, as someone who's an adult age myself, I'm always appreciative of visual novels where at least both parties are of actual adult age, not the 18-year-old high schoolers that they claim to have. I mean, obviously, I still read them and they still have good stories and characters and stuff, but it just would be nice if there were more adult age characters, and I'm pretty sure other people feel the same. So the next thing I want to talk about is the censorship that kind of happens with official English releases generally. So this is a kind of weird problem that's kind of ongoing, especially on Steam. The vast majority of the time, English localized visual novels do have all their 18 plus content intact. Usually places like Manga Gamer, Jazz, Second Project, Neconion, etc. They'll keep their 18 plus content, whether it's just having a full 18 plus version on their site or one of those other sites, or if they have a version on Steam, they have some kind of 18 plus patch that they have either on Steam or their site. But there's some companies that just refuse to put the 18 plus content, like Moe Novel does for If My Heart Had Wings, and Fruit Bat Factory. Even for people who don't really like 18 plus content, these type of people tend to just be really anti-censorship in general, so even if they don't like it, they would rather have everything preserved, because like in the case of the first Grisaya, they could remove a lot of lewd jokes in addition to the explicit sex scenes, so it's understandable from that front. But I wish there was some kind of in-game option so users could just choose to have H scenes on or off while reading the story, because even though I like H scenes in visual novels, they don't really need to be there if you're just there for the story. In Comu, there's actually an in-game filter to where if you set it on, you can make it so whenever an H scene would happen in the game, it would actually just change to a black screen. That I'm actually kind of surprised more companies don't do that. I think that could just be an interesting option. Speaking of story-relevant H scenes, that's the next topic I want to get into. There are some people who only want to see H scenes in visual novels if they're actually story-relevant in some way. Some examples I can think of are Sayano Uta, and then in Grisaya, there's a couple that have some kind of character development. For the most part, most sex scenes that get explicit don't really have that, and honestly, I think it's kind of funny that people are like, well, I'm just gonna wait for the 5 to 10% of visual novels that just happen to have a story-relevant H scene, but I'm just gonna control otherwise. I mean, if you really want to see story-relevant sex in a story, I don't think visual novels, eroge, are generally the genre to go to. But the next topic I want to get into is just the general inclusion of them in their stories, and like, why do companies continue to add them? The TLDR is obviously sex sells. Somewhere along the way, that it just became so popular that even the West started to notice and appreciate the genre. It is kind of unfortunate that companies pretty much have to include H scenes if they want their games to succeed. The writers have like this clear vision of the story they want to tell, but they know, at least in Japan, that there's a big crowd that would just be really angry if there was no 18+ content of their waifu or husband or whatever. There's apparently even a thing where they hire different writers to write the H scenes, so it can be kind of jarring seeing like how different the characters act. If you want to tell a story without H scenes, you just gotta be really, really popular to offset the people who just buy anything that has 18+ H scenes in them. The next topic I want to talk about are mosaics. The Japanese have some kind of censorship rules to where basically any genitals are censored out with these little mosaic blocks. But for Western releases, it's actually fairly common for some releases to have uncensored genitals. The vast majority, if not all, Manga Gamer and JAS releases tend to have completely uncensored, unmosaicked H scenes. With other companies like Soul Press, Sekai Project, Nekonyon, etc., it seems kind of rather hit or miss if mosaics are in. I do think it is kind of funny to where people actually prefer them seeing the mosaics in, because I guess it makes it better for them for whatever reason. The next topic I want to cover is otomege, or adult age 18+ visual novels aimed at female readers. So unfortunately, there actually aren't that many, both in Japan and in the West. Like, I don't know if there's just some kind of weird stigma that girls aren't allowed to like porn or something. There is a big call for some of the 18+ otomege that released in Japan to be localized in the West. Like, for example, Yoshiwara Higanbana continuously tops the Manga Gamer polls as far as most requested visual novels to localize. And it apparently actually has a really good plot and an interesting setting. As far as ones that I know have an English translation and are released, there's Fashioning Little Miss Lonesome by Call Me at 8, which I actually read. I actually thought it was a pretty funny comedy-based visual novel, but it oddly seemed like they were trying to make it appealing to both guys and girls. The main characters tend to not be voiced in erotic visual novels, but the main female definitely was, and I mean so were the guys, but it seemed like the CGs and angles, they tried to make it in a way so even male readers might actually like them. As far as English original ones goes, the only one that I know and kind of experienced with is Cute Demon Crashers. But yeah, other than that, there's just not many I can think of, but it would be nice. There definitely are female eroge fans that I see and know personally that would like to have more available. So the last topic I want to talk about is just the perception of visual novels basically being porn games. So unfortunately, I can't really fault them for that, to be honest. Like, some visual novel eroge I've read have like some of the best story and characters I've seen in all of fiction, or at least some of my personal favorites. If having porn in your story makes you feel uncomfortable, you know, I completely understand, especially if it's 2D porn, which, you know, isn't everyone's thing. And I actually kind of wish anime adaptations of eroge were better. They could tell the story while, you know, avoiding or maybe just alluding to the sex scenes that happen while still clearly trying to tell the story. But getting back to the perception of visual novels to outside readers, and if visual novels were to become more mainstream, there'd definitely be a bigger part of making sure that 18+ scenes aren't available or much harder to reach, which I think would anger a lot of the current fans of the genre. So, especially if most of the releases these days are going to be eroge or 18+ focused. And that is it for this video. Feel free to tell me what you think, if you want to see more of this, or if you'd rather just stick to my usual 5 to 10 audio-only content. Also curious what you guys think of 18+ content or H scenes in visual novels, so feel free to leave a comment if you have any input on that. Anyways, see you guys in the next video.